Well, here we go again, you guys. We're going to be talking about Nugent's disastrous performance over in Hong Kong, because apparently that con was a little bit too complex at ComplexCon. And so, over the weekend, they headlined one of the performances over this 3-day long sort of like hipster swap meet. And a lot of people showed up, so that was great. So, after they wove their way through the corn dogs and decals, they were on stage. But what were they able to perform? How did the crowd react? And how closely was this coordinated with ADOR and Hyein? Because at the last minute, ADOR said, okay, we're going to support you. We're going to send a support team over there. What happened to that team? And in general, why did it flop so badly? Because none of us could have really predicted it would turn out like this, right? In a nutshell, it was so messy, so uncoordinated, such a simple disaster over at this complex fair. And so let's get the technicalities out of the way first, because even the technicalities, audacious drama. So did ADOR staff help with the performance? No, absolutely not. They were ghosted. They were sent over there on like an emergency. They probably had to, pay last minute ticket rates. And reports say that they tried to get into contact with the Nugent's members and their team, and they got shut out of the entire thing. They were ignored by Nugent. So for this performance, we can say it is truly 100% Nugent's as independent artist and see how it worked out. And we can really parse through from this what Nugent's brings to the table as themselves and how much of this idleness, not like idle, there's idleness too, as in IDLENESS, but idleness, like IDOL, like what makes them such stars is like how much of it is actually supported by the infrastructure of a big music label. Well, this was the thing that got me, because remember when Nugent's mama, that whole Bunnies fandom world was accusing Bang Si-hyuk himself of trying to sabotage and cancel Nugent's performance over at the ComplexCon in Hong Kong, and it turned out that that was not the case at all. All Hyein and ADOR wanted was, okay, fine, we'll sort of give our tacit blessing for this performance to go through, but, kind of like business to business, please use their official legal name of Nugent's. Don't let them get away with this whole NJZ business. But what did the head of the Hong Kong, version of ComplexCon, because there's also a US version and it went over to China. This was like its second year over in China. What did she say just a few days before ComplexCon opened in Hong Kong, after she supposedly got this message to not use the name NJZ? Oh, she went on to broadcast news, did an interview to promote the ComplexCon, and then said like they were so proud to have NJZ come and do their debut with us. So completely aligning themselves with the Nugent's girls and disregarding Hyein. Just take a listen.
A couple weeks back, we got the pleasure of speaking to Nugent's, now known as NJZ. They're going to be headlining your event.
Yes, they're one of the headliners. We have 3 nights of concerts. Indeed, they are the most topical girl group right now, and NJZ doing their debut at ComplexCon, we are very, very honored by that.
And then even roping in that reporter who should have also known better, because she even referenced the actual interview that the station did, and also she should have known that there is a violation there if you use NJZ, especially with the recent court injunction. So that just got me, rubbed the wrong way, because that's just like really disrespecting other business, like business to business. And feeling like, okay, well, we obviously can't trust ComplexCon. They're going to be working against us. You know, if you're Hype or ADOR, we were very clear that our artists should be called by the New Jeans label, not NJZ. Did they perform as NJZ? Yeah, pretty much. This, of course, came 2 days after the Injunction ruling where New Jeans lost, and so they had to be New Jeans. So they never, out of their mouths, said that they were NJZ, nor did they say they were New Jeans. However, all of the visual branding, from the LED screens to also all of the paraphernalia across the ComplexCon, and even the merch they were selling as NJZ just said NJZ. And then, of course, the audacity of some of the costumes, the leggings that they were wearing, saying NJZ. So they didn't really comply at all. And they did this in total defiance, even after the Injunction ruling, which New Jeans themselves said that they were going to respect and honor, and yet they just kept going like it didn't matter. So one thing out of their mouth, the truth is in their actions. So this concert was like almost an hour-long monstrosity with a supposed twist at the end, announcing their hiatus like 54 minutes after their debut. So like they were gonna re-debut, right, as NJZ, and then 54 minutes later at the end of their debut performance, they're going on a hiatus again. Like, how sad is that? But what was more sadder was what happened within the 54 minutes. And in general, their voices crack so much through the auto-tuned backtrack thing, you know, and they were lip syncing badly. So I think what they were attempting to do for most of it was try to blend their live singing voice with the backtrack so that it's a semi lip sync, so that you can just sort of just blend a little softly into the loud backtrack. But there were times they didn't even bother fully saying all the words into the mic. And the singing was atrocious. There was barely any choreography. And so the way that the structure was, because they weren't allowed to use any of their New Jeans songs, and that also horrible mistake that any big label would know, that the people who come to see you like you for your songs that you performed, your music video, your discography. They like New Jeans singing New Jeans songs. But of course, they couldn't. And they decided to do solo songs. So again, people who are New Jeans fans like seeing New Jeans perform together. You guys, this almost looked like they were redoing their own version of like American Idol or Somebody's Got Talent somewhere in Hong Kong and doing like a solo. Like, it looks like these girls are about to be like every girl for themselves now, sweeties, because they're probably all just going to try to do their own solo careers. But this was if it was like kind of like an American Idol thing, you don't even have to be like a Simon Cowell to be just like, this was absolutely horrid. So the first performer was Danielle, who decided to cover TLC No Scrubs. And when I say the lip sync was obvious, it was so obvious. So like she was like lip syncing like in his best friend's car, and then trying to holler at me the next thing. She's like trying to holler at me. But it was, if she was really singing into the mic, then it should basically be like, you know, hanging out his best friend's car, you know, like, because she's not singing into the mic and she was just trying to dance. But then it just kept going. I was just like, my goodness, did she like take a class in lip syncing from Lisa? Like, it just did not work, and it was just so sloppy.
Hanging on the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. I don't want no
in the sense, like, you're not respecting the audience. That's the thing, that perhaps maybe, rushing through the idol training system, but that is sort of like a compact that you have with your audience. And if you're doing stuff like that, you're literally telling all the people who showed up that you don't respect them. Not enough, like, even if you are lip syncing and you have to, for whatever reason, you better make sure that lip sync is the best that you can do. And even after the performance, she was just like I was like, girl, what are you so out of breath for? Like, all y'all was doing was like half lip syncing. The lip sync got you out of breath. Like, what's going to happen when you actually have to sing for real? And then her dancing, like all of the choreography from all the girls. So I'm not just singling out Danielle here, but it just reminded me of like that Hilary Duff with Love. This one. Yeah, like, couldn't be bothered. The thing with the Hilary Duff thing, though, there's something about that looks like she is making a statement. And so there's a story behind that. So even though she's doing that, it's so funny. And I think that's what made it to TikTok, because for whatever reason, either she was forced into this bad choreography and she was just sort of mocking it as she went along, or maybe she was just in a bad, like, that call a slave contract a slave contract, or maybe it was like kind of a middle finger at somebody and just be like, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the dance. Something like that. Whichever way, whether she was forced or not, it was funny because it seemed like, it was obvious that she could do so much better, but she was doing it on purpose, and then it created its own comedy. That is definitely not what happened on this stage here. It was like them girls was just struggling, and the look from the one of the backup dancers coming off the stage was enough. It was as if she was just like, why did I got to carry this whole ComplexCon stage with this one other, chick dancing? Then Minji saying, smile for the camera. And she was like kind of whispering, not really singing into the mic. And when she did, it just sounded so horrible, like crackly. I thought maybe somebody had a hot mic, backstage and was just like opening up a bag of peanut brittle or something, because it was crack. Then Haerin came out, like, she kind of came out strong because she's like the strongest dancer in that group. And so she did Doncha and but on the other hand, this is why you need a team there, and why ADOR's people would have prevented this horrible mistake on stage. So her belt, yeah, up close, probably very cool avant-garde. When you're way back in the nosebleed seats, or probably just even in maybe like row K, it looks like the toilet paper wanted to also come on stage from the bathroom. It was just like following her around. And that was a very, very poor costume choice. Then Hyein did Use Your Heart, and she couldn't be bothered, okay? She just strutted a little bit down the stage, like walk in, and it was almost as if she was like Mariah Carey phoning it in at a Las Vegas residency. She just sat herself down on the steps and sang, like she couldn't be bothered at 16 years old. Mariah Carey, had she done that, completely, I think, acceptable at her grand dame age and having proven herself recording over 100 songs over the past decades, she wants to sit on the steps for a brief minute. She could. Not a 16-year-old who is still trying to prove herself in the music industry. You don't just sit on stage resting on your laurels and your faux fur Gucci. Then it was Hanni who decided to do My Boo.
So I'm going out every weekend just to see my boo again. Let's go!
Also, very off key. She kept dropping, the mic from doing the, are you lip syncing? Are you not lip syncing?
Your love is
It just made it really sloppy, trying to blend the live vocal into the recorded backtrack and then just giving up at times and then letting all the back dancers carry the stage for her. Then we had in between each song was a lot of talking as well, but this was also just so painful to get through. Hanni had to change her outfit for the pit stop dance. And so she went off stage, and then while, making the entire audience wait for her costume change, and each of the girls were just going over how amazing each other were in their solo performance. It was such a typical Mean Girl high school kiki session where the work was mediocre, but then you're hyping yourself up. So then, after Hanni got her steam iron working and finished changing her outfit, she rejoined the rest of the group to do Pit Stop. This was their highly anticipated new song that literally, it just sounded actually like a pit stop.
from a different fabric.
What kind of melodic sequence was there for the voices? What kind of beat? It was very muffled, and the performance itself was just so mashed potato, and they weren't even performing for the audience. Again, disrespecting the live audience. There's a way to blend both. They were just all performing for the camera. Again, I think this was somewhat of their last hope audition for solo careers, because that might be a loophole actually for them somehow. If they can't do New Jeans, they can't do NJZ, but can they go solo in some way and weasel out of this type of situation? So I don't know. I need to see Hilary Duff again. And then, if Pit Stop wasn't the big reveal, the jumbo reveal was that they were announcing their hiatus, that this might be the last time they see them, the audience sees them for a while. And again, Unilateral, ADOR said that there was no discussion with them. ADOR is just no, you're not going on hiatus. We're going to be working together. But they're just we're just doing this. And so the gist was they were saying they respect the court's decision. That's why they have to stop working. But they're essentially defying the court's decision, because the court's decision didn't say you stop working. The court's decision is that you stop working rogue. You work within the label that you have an exclusive contract with, and tomorrow you can go. You're going and you're working, and you can go into the recording studio, you can go do a commercial campaign, you can, practice your choreography, maybe take a few vocal lessons. You can do all of that stuff and still be active and respect the court's decision by basically working with ADOR. So let's go over snippets of their speech. So they're saying it's about us protecting ourselves so that we can come back even stronger. That seems in defiance, that they have been defeated. You're licking your wounds. And you're coming back stronger to what? To work with ADOR? No, you're coming back stronger to fight ADOR. They're like, this was a lot that we had to go through, things that only we know about. But right now, though it feels too hard to keep going at this pace, and as strong as we are trying to stay, it has honestly taken a bit of mental and emotional toll on us. However, it doesn't mean that we're going to give up. We will keep pushing forward no matter what. How are you going to stop all your activities and keep pushing forward no matter what at the same time, and then respect the court's decision and yet not stay at ADOR? All of this has contradictions because they're not being honest. They went on, right now our hearts are a little bit worn out and it feels a bit too hard to keep going at this pace. With this decision we've made, we're respecting the court's decision, and for now it's just us taking a step back to pause. Yeah, you're basically defeated in this portion of the war, and you're trying to shore up your defenses and offenses and resupply your munitions so that then you can come back and what? Negotiate peace? No. Continue the war. It's really hard for us to say this, but this might be our last performance for a little while. You know, even if there was no conflict, I would say it definitely has to be your last performance for a little while to go back into vocal classes, dance classes, and just screw your head on straight classes. And this was really rich. We had to speak up to protect the values that we believe in, and that was a choice we don't regret at all. Standing up for our dignity, our rights, and everything we deeply care about. What is it that you care about? What is it that you believe in? That is highly sus. Thank you so much. We really love you, and the 5 of us are always thinking of the bunnies, so please always stay healthy, eat well, and sleep well. Then the members hugged and cried on stage. So what was ADOR's response? Immediately the next morning, ADOR responded with the following statement. We consider it deeply regretful that in spite of the court's decision, New Jeans pushed ahead with performing under a different name instead of New Jeans and unilaterally announced that they would be halting their activities. In accordance with ADOR's valid exclusive contract, we would like to do our utmost for New Jeans. We hope that we can meet with the artists as soon as possible and discuss their future. So, ADOR is saying we're moving ahead. Think of it in the reverse. If ADOR suddenly unilaterally said that they're going to halt New Jeans' activities, there would be an uproar and there would be immediate doubts cast on ADOR of not fulfilling their contractual obligations. So right now, for New Jeans to make this move, essentially they are not fulfilling their contractual obligations. Now, this is what is going to be extremely clear, as in what's going to happen and what is ADOR preparing for and what most likely is coming down the pike. New Jeans is doomed. If they are going to be following their hubris, their ego, or Min Hee-jin, or any or all of the above, because they literally have the smallest window to go back and immediately resume activities with ADOR. If they do that, that would be the last survival chance for their future career, but I think even their future, because otherwise, once this contract is confirmed as valid, which is expected, a valid exclusive contract between the artist and the agency, then what makes you think ADOR won't immediately move to charge New Jeans with breach of contract? And if New Jeans breaches the contract in that way, and if it's similar to, like, let's say they just wanted to leave, then they would owe $500 million. So like $100 million for like each girl. So not only is your career ruined, you owe all of this money to ADOR and Hyein. And that will be the end of their use as a shield for Nugent's mama. And you know, when that happens, everyone's going to be like, oh, it was so obvious that they were going down the path of no return. I was like, excuse me, wait a minute. Like, a lot of y'all were going along with the scheme. That's why they went down such a horrible path, because it was working. You know, people were believing, oh, Min Hee-jin, she sounds like she's a martyr for women in the corporate world. Oh, Nugent's, I think they really were bullied. Oh my God, Islet, I think they were plagiarizing Nugent's. Oh, I think Hype was so evil to them. Oh, they're not being bowed down to. You know, all the people, where are they now? Like, nobody ever apologizes for helping the Jezebel get her agenda across. They all at the end start to turn and say like, oh, well, I knew that. Oh, I could see that. And that's the problem. If so many people had seen it and it was so obvious, then it wouldn't have gotten to this stage that we're at right now, where Le Seraphim, Eyelid, thank God for their recent successes and more power to them for really stepping it up. But you can tell that these girls are suffering from the post-traumatic stress of being bullied, smeared, and having like a powerful orchestrated campaign work relentlessly against them. And this whole bowing thing that they tried to start even with the chairman of Hyein, remember Pang Shi-hyuk? Oh, he didn't really properly say hi to us or bow to us in the elevator. That is essentially the core of this dysfunction, this Achilles heel. Like, everybody not bowing to you triggers your feeling of injustice if you are one of the star pupils at the Jezebel Institute of Treachery. That's the type of belief that you would fight for, this sort of injustice, the thing that they think is right, that the whole world is not bowing down to them. And sweeties, in the real world, especially once people wake up to it, don't want that kind of stuff. Don't want that. No, that's the real scrub. Don't want that kind of scrub. And so if you know somebody by, how their kids act, you could sort of glean what kind of people they are. You kind of know what kind of an artist somebody is by how their fans act. There's a responsibility that you need to take to make sure also your fans are not going to be toxic. You can't control everybody's behavior, of course, and there's always outliers. But what we have seen, and we'll probably go into in the next video, also tacit acknowledgement and support of the most toxic elements of their fandom. All right, guys, what do you think? Put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.